Good evening, dear friends. Those of you who are joining us on our live here at the Spiritist Society of Baltimore, our virtual meeting. We're so happy to have you, whether you're watching the recorded version or the live version. We are happy to have you with us. So, before we begin today, before we welcome our guest, we're going to say our very special guest because she is special. As usual, we always read Happy Life and we do a prayer for an opening, which we're going to do. And then we're going to take just a few moments to welcome our speaker for this evening. So, of course, we always read a brief message from the book Happy Life just to get us attuned for this moment. And this is on page 111 of the second edition of Happy Life. Joanna says, "You need serenity at every step of the way. Serenity to discern, act, and live. Life rushes at you and changes situations by the minute, requiring constant serenity to avoid trampling on other people. Those who torment themselves by trying to keep up with the breakneck speed of the times will be crushed because they do not adjust to a situation before jumping to the next. News and events come and go, causing enormous emotional, mental, and physical fatigue. Seek shelter in serenity, preserving the equipment of your existence, equipment that is meant to be used properly and not abused." Thank you, dear Joanna, for that great reminder of serenity. So, with those thoughts from Joanna in mind, let us close our eyes. Let us commune together our thoughts, our hearts, our minds, and we lift up our vibrations and open our hearts to our divine creator, to our model and guide, Jesus, to our spirit guides and mentors. We humbly but wholeheartedly ask that your loving vibrations be with us this evening and all those who are tuned in. We pray for the guidance, the inspiration of our speaker this evening, Yasco. May her words, may all of the teachings that she brings today bring solace, hope, and encouragement for all of those who are ready to listen and hear it. We pray, dear God, for this moment that we are synchronizing together, albeit virtually, that these energies may be used to help those who are suffering. And with Jesus in our hearts and in our minds, may we be open and ready to hear the message of this evening, and so be it. Dear friends,
Hello.
hello, hello. So, dear friends, before we pass the ball and go over to our speaker, Yasco Aracava, this evening, we just wanted to say, with immense gratitude in our hearts, and we have to say we're human, so some sadness. This will be Yasco's last presentation in a way with the SSB because while she's still here in the States, but Yasco's going to be traveling back to home to Brazil. But we know she's still going to be in touch with us virtually and over the phone and all that great stuff too. So, this won't be the last time we get you,
No,
Yasko.
no,
It's
no,
just,
no.
it's this is just an end of one cycle and a beginning of another. And we just wanted to extend our immense gratitude for everything
Good.
that you have done for all of us, for the SSB, but also all the individuals and the lives that you've touched, because it was many. As we saw
Thank you.
recently, it was many. But without further ado, Yasko, please, you're going to be presenting a presentation today entitled Parable of the Weeds, Time to Uproot the Weeds and Harvest the Good Fruits. We are ready for the good fruits. Please.
Okay, so shall I? Oh, where is my PowerPoint now? It seems disappeared. Oh, here. Let me see. Uh, did you see something? Yes, Kirsten?
Good. You're good.
Yeah, we're
Yep.
good, right? Okay. Good evening, dear friends. Yes, it's a bittersweet time, but I think it's with joy, when we're not leaving the friends. We just say a short transitory goodbye, but with the internet, we're all together. And thank you so much for all your kindness, kind words, kind everything. Thank you, company. So without you guys, as I said, for us that live alone in United States or any foreign country, without the family, yeah, the friends are everything, where we know we can go after them in moments of, some difficulties. So thank you so much for that. Thank you. So tonight I chose the parable of the weeds. In Portuguese, I don't know in other language, but we say the parable of the tare, which is the wheat, and the wheat. But here is more known as parable of the weeds. And my question is, the question is it time to uproot the weeds and harvest the good fruits? The end of the year is approaching, holiday season. The new year is approaching. We always think about what we did the whole year. We do some kind of a survey, balance, financial balance, moral balance. And we decide for the next year to do something to correct or something to edit. It's always called the resolution. So I put this question: is it time to uproot the weeds and harvest the good fruits? But in the end, I am a little more humble. And I say, well, let's think if it is time to uproot the weeds and harvest the good fruit, at least to uproot the weeds. Sometimes we are not completely prepared, ready to uproot the weeds, as we're going to see during the presentation. Okay. So this parable of the tare, the weeds, and the wheat of course, Jesus always gave some. The parables was always based on the what was going on in that culture, in the Palestine, in the time of Jesus. What was the way to make money, either was in the agriculture, in the field, or as a fisherman. So of course he used all this scenario, all this everyday problem in order to exemplify a lesson of moral conduct, because Jesus used all of these parables for us to grab what is we supposed to do for our improvement as a moral person, as a good person. So this is a little information: horticultural sabotage. For Jesus' original audience 2000 years ago, this story made much more sense, since when one farmer wanted to sabotage another, it wasn't unheard of for them to sow tear into their wheat field. So look at that. They were not so good people. Tear is a noxious weed. You see the picture? They look very similar. Very similar. So tear is a noxious weed that mimics many of the characteristics of the wheat for a while they are growing. Before they mature, the two plants are almost identical, called in some regions as false wheat, because they don't when they mature, they don't give the grains, they're empty. But as they grow, the difference become apparent in the fruit. As I said, the real wheat, it gives the grain. And the tear, it doesn't give the wheat. It's false. It's empty. It only gives this outside, how to say, leaves or whatever that covers that ramification. Unfortunately, tear is also poisonous in a big amount, and in a big enough dose may kill a person. So it is not something a farmer wants mixed up in their harvest. So they have, like we're gonna see in the parable, that we have in one time when they mature to get rid of the tear. So Jesus, actually, there were many 5 to 7 parables about the kingdom of the heaven, of kingdom of God. And he wanted us, the audience, although they misunderstood when he said my kingdom, that was a real kingdom like the Roman, everybody knew about kingdom, all made by buildings, temples, all this material enormity. But he wants to say that the kingdom of heaven, the kingdom of God, is within us, is inside of us. So he gave a lot of many parables to say, to try to convey this notion. So the first parable was the parable of the sower. Then came this parable of the tare and the wheat, and then came of the parable that he says that about the pearl that is hidden in the shell in the depth of the sea, or the treasure is hidden in some part of the farm. Everything is inside, and the person has to find this treasure and get rid of the external weed. So the parable of the weed, this particular parable, Matthew was the only evangelist that recorded in his gospel. You see that many parables, many stories are written by some by the 5 evangelists, some only by 2, some by 3, etc. But this one, Matthew was the only one that recorded. In Matthew says, Jesus told them another parable. That means he had already said the first parable, which is the parable of the sower. So now he's saying another parable. The kingdom of heaven is like a man who sowed good seed in his field. Good. But while everyone was sleeping, his enemy came and sowed weeds among the wheat and went away. When the wheat sprouted and formed heads, then the weeds also became apparent, I would say, became apparent because became different from the real wheat. The owner's servant came to him and said, "Sir, Didn't you sow good seed in your field? Where then did the weeds come from? And the owner said, an enemy did this. Well, so there's some little marks that I should to tell you to pay attention. Why is written there while everyone was sleeping? What Jesus wanted to call attention. Well, the enemy comes while everyone is sleeping. So in our days, in psychological point of view, sleeping means you're not awakened. You are in this passive mode, let it go, you don't pay attention, you don't want to improve. You you are in this sleepy mode. But you need to open, awake our consciousness in order to improve from inside, which is our conscience. So that's what it is while everyone was sleeping. So let's be careful not to be sleeping and not seeing the enemy coming. And we're going to say later, what is the enemy? His enemy sowed the weeds. We have to ask, who are our enemy today? Is from outside or from inside? And then he says, enemy went away. So sometimes the enemy is sneaky. It puts there the little bad seed and goes away. It can be some of our old habits. We think we distracted. We think, well, I mastered this vice. Oh no, but there are moments that you're sleeping and now you derail suddenly in certain circumstances. So, because the enemy is not apparent, our moral problem, our moral habit is not always apparent to us, so that's what he's calling attention. Wheat appeared later with the wheat sprout. So, some of this negativity, negative things, it can mixed up with the good. And sometimes they say, well, when the person is really bad, is clearly saying, doing bad things, it's easy for us to defend ourselves. But the problem is when that one says half truth, half lie. So who is listening get kind of distracted. Well, pay attention that he's doing good, doing something good, but in the middle has something bad, and you didn't pay attention because we are sleeping. Okay. Owner sowed good seeds. So honor here may be representing God. So God put inside of us good seed, the seed of goodness, love, all the good virtues, the divine virtues that make us a divinity. That one day, once we get rid of the negativities, the negative vices, all these habits, our destiny is to be a pure spirit with all goodness inside of us. We don't need even to pay attention anymore because we are all awakened. We are fully conscious. And this consciousness is automatic. I don't need, oh my God, I have to see, oh, I have to be careful. No, no, it's automatic. It's part of us to be good. So then, how the weeds came in. So is the enemy, the owner said. So is the enemy. So my question is now, who are our enemies? Who or what are they? Old vices, negative habits, false prophets, false ideology, We want to, we know the thing that the person is saying. It doesn't make total sense, but I want the external force, the cure, the healing, whatever, the consolation come from outside. I want the physician to give a miracle procedure, and I can go to life as I was always, you know. So that is the false prophets and the good fruit, bad fruits. It's so important that Allan Kardec in Gospel According to Spiritism, chapter 21, dedicated the whole chapter with this title: There Will Be False Christs and False Prophets. And in the item called A Tree is Known by Its Fruits, I got a little sentence from there, says, a good man brings forth good things from the good treasure of his heart, whereas the evil man takes evil things from the evil treasure of his heart. For the mouth speaks from what fills the heart. So, if the fruit, if the words, if the actions are good, I am a good person. If some of my actions is not that good, is deceiving something, my heart is not that good. Has a mix of evil and good. So that is the tricky part in our stage of life today in this planet of trial and expiation. That means we are not even 50% good considering the whole time. Consider our action, considering our thoughts, etc. Barely 50% in average. Okay, so the problem is that it's mixed. Sometimes we are good in some moments, in some circumstance. In the next minute, we do something evil. So we say, oh, I did again. So that is the tricky part for us in this moment of evolution, is to be aware and not be so relaxed. Oh, I'm a good person. I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm helping this, I didn't. Oh, be careful, because the tests come exactly with some tricky circumstance where your guard is down and your old millennial or more habits, instinct appears as the weed that appears later in some circumstance when matures. So, and also we're not always evil. So let's be uh, very, humble and be, not be so judgmental to ourselves, because we do bad things. Wow, but we can do good things too, you know. And the one act was of goodness, like Peter said, it can erase a multitude of evil actions. So let's count on that once we see, we awake, we can repair, repent and repair, repent and repair many times as needed. So this is good. So that was Luke. Now Matthew says again, also by the fruits we shall know them. We shall know the tree, we shall know the person, we shall know the prophets by the fruit, what they are delivering, they are giving away. So Matthew says, and Beware of false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravenous wolves. Wow. You will know them by their fruits, by their words. So don't, if some instincts say, be aware, be careful, look, my gut say this. Oh, be careful. Pay attention. Probably you want some miracle, but the miracle doesn't exist like this. So it's too good, too easy, can be false, can be fake. Every tree that does not bear good fruits is cut down and thrown into fire. Therefore, by their fruits you will know them. So, um, so we this seems so tough. Oh, we're going to be cut down from the planet Earth, going to hell and put down in the fire. No, it's not that. It's that. But we, as a spirit, we have the potential because the seed was put inside of us to bear good fruit. In the beginning, one for 100, the other one 10 for 100, the other one 50 for 100, 100. You know, fully develop a lot of fruit. So this is a process. This is a process, but we have to be aware of even us being the false prophets to ourselves. We are trying to say things to convince ourselves of things that doesn't make totally sense. We are deceiving ourselves, being a false prophet of ourselves. And we have all the defensive mechanisms, all the way to twist, to justify, like putting the sheep's clothing, to justify that that's not as bad as it looks. No, only we know that we are deceiving ourselves, right? And the others too. And the parables continues. The servants ask him, do you want us to go and pull them up? So to put the weed up? No, he answered, because while you are pulling the weeds, you may uproot the wheat with them. Wow. So pay attention in this sentence and put in the place of weed a good habit, a vice. If it's time to really get rid of that thing, suddenly uproot, aren't you going to lose some of your virtue? Are you going to, are we not going to somehow deceive ourselves and our goodness be a little fake? Let's see later how we got this. Let both grow, the master said, the owner. Let both grow together until the harvest. Interesting. So let the vice and the goodness and the virtues grow together. Later on, when the harvest time comes, when we mature, then we're gonna sort out and decide if it's time for uproot. At that time, I will tell you the harvesters. First, collect the weeds and tie them in bundles to be burned. Then, gather the wheat and bring it into my barn, God's barn, which is inside of us. The kingdom of God is inside of us. The virtue is inside of us, collected there. So this is a comment. The servants want to help the farmer to by uprooting the impostors, but they lack of sensitivity of the angelic harvesters. It is not the job of the servants to make judgment about what it is, and it isn't actual wheat. Their job is to serve the farmer as he spreads the legitimate seeds. Pay attention again. Many times, we do that. We want to fix someone. Oh, that person has that vice. I want her to learn how to get rid of that vice, that tendency, that habit. But who am I? What is my credentials to decide that it's time for that person to get rid of the vice? The person may not be ready, you know. So that's what he's saying. The servant is not prepared, doesn't have the sensitivity of the angelic harvesters. God knows and God is patient. All the assistants, all the mentors are very, very, very patient with us, waiting slowly that step by step, after many falls and getting up, we finally get rid of the weed, get rid of that given vice. So it's not up to the us laying perfect person that we are now to judge and decide, well, I don't know why you're not getting rid of your this vice. It's time for you to understand now. Why can't you see that? What is wrong with you, like I would say, right? No, no. It's not the job of us imperfect beings to judge the other imperfect beings. Let's ask for the high angelic harvesters to do that through some inspiration, of course. They need some people to convey the words from the angelic harvester. But let's pay attention, not do too much, saying that we are the one that has all the power. So, good and bad fruits, wheat and tare, virtues and vices. What lesson of moral conduct and evolution Jesus is teaching us with this parable? What do the tares and wheat represent in terms of moral conduct and evolution? As I already said about, it's about virtues and vice. It's making this parallel, good and bad, wheat and tare, virtues and vices. So tares represent the set of vices, negative behavior, inconsequential, futile actions. It can be minor, but it is still the damage that we cause is there. You know, when we don't pay attention, we get out from the scene when we're supposed to be there to help. While wheat represents the tree bearing the good fruits, the grains that turn into flour and to the final bread that satiates the hunger of others. That means we are here to develop the virtues, to be productive for our work, our action in this incarnation. Be give some good fruits, be of goodness to someone else that is in need. A good word. It cannot be an empty talk, wasting time, inconsequential, futile actions. No, good fruits, good brain, good grains to get in the final product that is the bread. That is the product that will satiate the hunger. In analogy, wheat represents the set of our positive acquisitions, moral virtues, good intention. So any acquisition is already positive. It doesn't need to be 100%. But if today I'm better than yesterday, wow, that's better. Very good jump, right? Now I'm asking the question, is it better for the good and the bad to grow together for our moral growth. It's funny, isn't it, to say, well, I should leave my vice and my negative with the positive for a while I really grow. So in this chapter 107, it's called Ter, Joio. Ter, in this book, The Vine of Light, Vinha de Luz, Francisco Cândido Xavier and the Spirit Emmanuel. It's exactly the last verse of this parable. Let them both grow together until the harvest. And at the time of the harvest, I will say to the reapers, first gather the tares and bind them in sheaves to burn. So Emmanuel wants to reflect, to discuss this verse, to say, is it God really conveying what I'm thinking? What is this to let bad and good be together? What is this? Emmanuel says, when Jesus recommended the simultaneous growth of tares and wheat, he only wanted to demonstrate the sublime heavenly tolerance in the context of life's experiences. The Master has never taken away man's opportunities for growth and sanctification, and in this sense, evil itself, arising from less worthy passions, is patiently examined by his infinite love without being destroyed at once. So that means that we cannot destroy our vice, rip out, uproot if we are not ready. So let's give some kind of example. It's like, well, tomorrow, today on, I don't want anymore to have this vice, this old habit. If you're not prepared, what happen? We're gonna hide, forcefully hide on us, inside of us. Don't let it appear, fake, deny, be in denial. What is the consequence? Hmm. Is all these psychological problems that appears. Some people that in childhood they had a horrible, terrible insult. They wanted to scream, and they didn't. They didn't tell the parents. They hide. And now what happened later? That thing grew from inside out. That psychological impact. So we have to deal face to face, not uproot and destroy when we're not prepared to. That's what he's saying. And God and Jesus says the Father, and he is bringing the words of Father. They have such a tolerance, sublime heavenly tolerance, that look, if we get rid of our vice very slowly through many incarnations, it's okay. It's okay. Don't rip and make a wound there that will never heal. Never heal. It gets worse. It can be infected. That's what it's saying. So the master is never taking away man's opportunity to grow. We ourselves have to decide and to say when say. We don't need to say to anyone, to ourselves, that we are making an effort to get rid of a certain habits. Not because someone is forcing, because they don't know our reasons. They don't know our past. They don't know the causes. It's easy to say to the others, but if you don't know the history of that person, how can you judge that given negative behavior, psychological behavior. Emmanuel continues, it is important to consider, therefore, that the tares do not grow because of the divine farmer's lack of attention. It's not because God is, let this child of mine go the way it wants. No, no, it's not a lack of attention, but because the celestial sower's optimist, he is so optimistic, he will never lose his hope on us that in there there is a final victory of good, because he's determined that we will be, our destiny is to be good, is to be a pure spirit. God has no doubt about this. It's so Christ, because he's bringing his word. The field of Christ is a region of incessant and intense activity. I thought this was so consoling. We think we are abandoned here. No, they are there, all the mentors, all the garden. They are there in this incessant, intensive activity, trying to protect, put away some kind of protection, some kind of signal for us to pay attention in a very mild, pacific way. No, nothing uprooting, nothing drastic. Astonishing tests mobilize heroic phalanxes. So there is a group of people, of guardian angels there. Imagine paying attention to me in every step that I'm taking. Isn't this fantastic? However, Emmanuel says, if the harvest season arrives after the period of expectation and observation, it is then necessary to eliminate the tares in bunches. The harvest is not the same for all seeds on earth. Each species has its day, its season. This is why, with the arrival of the right time, each man and each collectivity demand the extinction of the tares when the transforming processes of Jesus were received in vain. So if we didn't pay attention, we didn't, but there will be a time like we are now going through a transition and in going to the regeneration, and those that are completely resistant, they cannot, no sensitivity to the bad that are doing, to the harm that are doing. They have actually joy in doing the harm. There will be a time for this harvest. That means they're going to be separate and put in a bunch. It can be a collectivity to another planet of more primitive, that they can be of goodness, of some kind of help to the ones that are now evolving there, like the people from Alcyone, from the other planet came, and Capella, and to help the Earth in millions of years, thousands of years ago. So, what is important to see here? You see, there is a time after certain period of expectation and observation. So we also expect, we also observe, and we are the one that will judge. Well, it is time for now. I'm almost prepared tomorrow to be in the same circumstance and not to be screaming at that person, to be wild in the traffic. Those small things. You know. So then you can get those vices and throw away slowly. The harvest is not the same for all seeds. So each one of us grow in different time. Isn't wonderful? So why we want to impose to our fellow beings, fellow friends, fellow brother, oh, you have to be in the timeline as mine. What craziness is this? Or the children. Oh, you have to be like your father. Your father was a great lawyer or great physician. Oh, the kid doesn't want to do that. And they're forced. But each spirit is a spirit, individual spirit, and has its day, its season, its evolutional pathway. But for each one of us, each man, each collectivity, even collectivity, as the exiled from Capella, there is a time that they say, well, now you better off, you're gonna be of more utility, usefulness if you help other ones in that other planet. It's always for the goodness. God never wants something to be bad. No, you may be better in that other work, in the other environment. So good and bad has the harvest time. I'm getting a little bit more humble, and now I'm asking, is really the harvest time? Historically, I put these three pictures because sometimes it's sad to see this mix of good and bad. You see, the Stoicism, I'm going to read this. It was, time of 2000 years ago or more, was a very good philosopher way of living, way of seeing ethics. Recognize what you can and you cannot control. You determine your reaction to a crisis. Ignore people dominated by their own negative emotions. Master yourself and aim to be virtuous. Learn to move on. So it seems a beautiful philosophy, way of life. But you see here, they say the first century had Stoicism and Christianity. Imagine Christianity brought, if Stoicism brought some ethics, the way to live ethically, Christianity came with Jesus to live with love to ourselves, to each other. But it also had mad emperors and slavery, you know. And not only the Romans, later, those French emperors, and up to today, we have some emperors there, and slavery. It didn't finish there. The 16th century had exploration, cultural renaissance. Renaissance, beautiful art, beauty. But it also had religious warfare and barbaric tortures. How could these things be mixed up? You know, the 19th century had abolitionism and industrialism, but it also had colonialism in opposition with abolitionism. Look at that, colonialism. And even the mid of 20th century, we had all the African countries under the colonialism, French, um, British, even India up to Second World War was still under British colonization, imperialism. So you have this movement together with the opposite actions, as a society. Abolitionist, colonialist, industrialist, imperialist. Imperialism now, is a financial imperialist. And what a dirty war that goes through, between the forces of this market, to gain the market. But still now the good and bad live together inside our family, workplace, institutions, congregations of all sorts. Don't you see the bad and good? Yes, of course we see the good and bad. People that sneak some money out, use some money that is for the poor people, workplace, they rob some items, or they do a bad job, they don't attend well. And most importantly, inside of each one of us, each one of us have the bad and good trait, unfortunately. So we can see that that is the most difficult part, because it's up to us to separate the bad and good in one time. Can we uproot the bad trait and keep intact the good? Or it is a process that demands time and maturity. So as I said, if you uproot before the time your bad tendency or vice, you may have a psychological problem of being intoxicated by your own vice, by your own negativity. You and this is what they say: the good and bad, the goodness is good that appear, but the bad is not easy to uproot easily. And the examples, if you want to say later, each one of you, yes, can give an example. Well, Jesus was a great example of this. That he never deny to go and chat and dine together with the bad ones. Could be the robbers, could be the one that exploited the tax collector like Zacchaeus. Zacchaeus almost fell from the tree when Jesus said, "Well, come down, because tonight I need your shelter. I have to shelter inside your house." Wow, was a transformation from Zacchaeus, because he said, "Master, I know I've been robbing something, but I'll give 4 times back to those that I kind of make mistakes, and I am sharing my property, the goodness, the fruits, etc., etc." So there was a salvation, Jesus said. So the goodness impacted the bad ones. Zacchaeus could have died doing these bad things with the tax, collecting the taxes, but here comes one person, one instance, and he changed. And I think he was the one, the substitute, some people say, Judas, to complete the 12 disciples. And Mary, that of Bethany, that washed his feet against all the bad eyes from the people that were the Pharisees that were hosting Jesus. Jesus let her go there, cry over his feet, clean his feet, and justify to the Pharisees how good this woman was, how how well she hosted him, while the Pharisees, did not even give a water to clean his hand, etc., which that time was usual. It's not to give hands and say, "Hi, how are you?" Tap the shoulder. No, it's to give water to wash and to clean their feet, because they come walking long distance in that desert. So that is how you welcome inside your home. So Jesus was a good example. So we should also do the same, right? So the good, or the one that is carrying the good, can gain with the bad. How? So, but not Jesus, because Jesus doesn't need to acquire any virtues. But look at this. If I have a difficult person nearby me, look how many virtues I can strengthen: tolerance, patience, acceptance, you know, of those that are still lagging behind in virtues. So I can learn from them. And who carries the evil can also absorb, like they did, Zacchaeus did, the virtues, and reduce the evil acts by observing acts of action, acts of kindness, acts of compassion, generosity, to himself or to their loved ones. So that's how they say there's some jailed man who it changed completely when they see someone doing good to their family while he is jailed. And that may change his perspective and, and shift his way of conducting once he get out from the jail, and so many situations we see that the act of kindness changing completely the path of that given person that was in criminality. They are there because who knows the story of this person, as a kid, as a child, abuse, and all those things. So I probably would fall in the same hole if I had that kind of treatment. Okay, so it's Thanksgiving, New Year's arrival, and I ask, is it a good time to start uprooting the weeds and harvest the good fruits? So I changed it. Before I said, isn't time? Like we always say, it's time for you. No, I'm asked, is it really a good time? Let's make a survey, our inner survey, and see what we can do. Not ask too much, not demand too much. I put some kind of example of tear and wheat. Can we transform blame or get rid of the blame, the desire to blame everything, every instance, every circumstance, and put forgiveness there, acceptance there? Every time it happened, well, no, I probably had a reason for that. Estrangement for reconciliation. It's time for reconciliation. It's much easier. It's much more rewarding neurochemically. Resentment for contentment. Meanness for kindness. Hurt for heal. Why keep poking that wound that keep hurting over and over the person, the relationship? Let's heal it. Let's say, look, we are different. 30 years of me, I'm not the same person. And so you're not too. Like Paul said, well, probably James changed. And really, he changed in 30 years, became a wise man. And so Paul changed too. We all change. Let's not carry the picture of 30 years ago when we had that horrible fight and we fought so badly and thinking that the person is the same, stubborn. No, the person changed. Life has been a good, how to say, way for us to learn. Ungratefulness, intolerance by understanding, ungratefulness for gratitude. So intolerance, right? We are, again, you're doing this. Well, perhaps the circumstance for that person didn't change. That's why it's happening again. Perhaps if I help for the causes that is causing, making that person so negative or doing bad things that cause my intolerance, perhaps I can understand and help. So, the parable of the weeds, is it time to uproot the weeds and harvest the good fruit? Let's think about carefully, kindly. So, thank you. Wishing you a happy Thanksgiving, good holidays, and good New Year's. Thank you. Let's see. I should what?
You can thank you, Yasco. Yep,
Shall
you're
I
you're good. You're good. You need
No, yeah, I shoot something. What is
an
that? Oh,
exit.
stop screen. Yeah.
Stop
Okay.
screen. Yep. Perfect. That was wonderful, Yasko. And before I move over to the comments and questions, I was just commenting here and thinking about how perfect this talk was in terms of, the timing of and the topic of this talk with you transitioning, and this talk being about, sowing and harvesting. I mean, maybe for you, it's just another, uplifting, inspiring talk. But I was thinking how poignant it is, for this being your transition period of all that
No,
you've,
it's total. Yeah.
of all
Yeah.
the sowing you've done and the harvesting perhaps now, but also still going, you know, transitioning back to another place where you're still going to be sowing a lot,
Oh,
it's
yeah. Oh,
you're
yeah.
still going to be a farmer,
We are growing together. We're still
Yes.
growing together, SSB family.
So true. So just some quick hellos everyone was saying, um and Chris was sharing also, going to miss you. This is, and just wanted to share everyone's thoughts. Ida Sam also said we were going to miss you here a lot in the US. We have a friend Lynn in Brazil joining us as well. And Abby also sharing that she shares Chris's sentiments and everyone else's really. Um,
Thank you.
Before I jump to the questions, I just want to share another big message Chris left. So thank you for a wonderful talk, Yasko. I agree. We cannot change others. Over the last 5 years, I've seen friends, colleagues, and even family following false prophets, let's call it. And I've been very frustrated with this. Thank you for the reminder that I can't argue with them no matter how much I wish they see things as they really are. We must do our best to be kind in responding to ignorant people. Yes, for sure, Chris. Yasco, happy harvesting in Brazil. We will miss you and your teaching expertise until you're back as a guest speaker. Absolutely. Again, I just wanted to share some of these highlights for you, Yasco.
Oh, thank you.
Ada Sam, again, happy Thanksgiving. Um, okay, let's jump over to some questions. Let's see here. Let's start with Albaz. She says, "Thank you, Yasko. What a wonderful presentation. It called my attention that the tear was tied in bundles and thrown to the fire. Can we transform vices in groups as opposite as one vice at a time?"
Yeah, that's a good question that I asked myself. And of course, I read some places that psychologically, one vice, one bad habit doesn't come alone. You have a group of things either parallel because they, they go together, or in series, one causes the other to at least to be apparent. So when you get rid of would say the most primary vice, which we always say is the pride and selfishness, but together, because I'm pride, because I'm selfish, I'm intolerant, I am judgmental, I don't pay attention, I'm not generous, I am not I don't. I'm not with solidarity. All these other secondary, tertiary, what we call sisters, grand sisters, and child of the first two primary vice, it appears because they're all in bundle. So once you get rid of the primary ones, the rest comes. You can put away. Once I manage, I master to get rid of my pride, and I'm very comfortable without my pride and be and not be selfish, be very generous. Well, the rest, I become tolerant. I become, more welcoming. I become more accepting. So all this secondary bad thing goes in a bunch. So you can get rid of this in a bundles. That's how I understood, because nothing comes by itself. Is in a bundle. And hopefully the good things too, you know. But the bad has those primary two bad vices, uh, which is the pride and selfishness. Yes.
That's perfect.
Hmm.
I'm going to share a comment/question from Lynn Bygrave. She says, "Is this not the whole point of us being here? We live in a world of opposites. There can be no good without bad, light without dark. Our seeds contain only good, but if we do not nurture it, it will not grow."
Perfect, perfect, perfect. It is really the core of this parable, because we learn from the opposite, even from the opposition side of us, because we have to have almost a mirror, a perspective, a reference. I cannot be good by being everything on me be good. I cannot learn if I don't see any bad things around, even inside of me. I can't. I cannot grow better if I don't fall, if I don't make a mistakes. By making a mistake, I honestly say, wow, I made a mistake again. So now you have to figure out, if it didn't work before the strategy, what are the new strategies, psychological, the behavior, in order to next time when the tests come, I don't fall. It's like in the traffic. I always ain't got to 95. I get upset because the line, then someone cross. It's always the same story. But we say, I know that I'm not gonna fall again. But because you have that instance, now you are what? Doing something, calculation in your mind, in your soul, in your heart. You say, what should I do when that car that I know is gonna cross me gonna do? Should I start a little earlier from home? Start more calm, knowing that I may find these people there in my road in front of me, or that person probably has all the need to go faster. I don't know. I don't know the story, because I think they're doing that on purpose to upset my day. No, we are not that important for the millions of people to do bad things because just to hurt me. No, 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 no. So I think it's exactly the opposite trait helps us to develop the good one, as I said. Is that's why it's so smart when they say let both grow together, because the good cannot develop if there is not a reference of the bad thing inside of us, around us, you know in all different circumstances. So that's completely true. We are in this stage of trials expiation. Is perfect, perfect scenario, perfect scenario.
Mm,
Yes,
I love it.
yeah.
Okay, our next question comes from Paula. She says, "Good and bad are love and fear in the channeled course in miracles. Would this reframe be helpful for self-reflection?"
I don't know, understand well what is the channeled course of miracles.
So
That
she's talking about the book that series of publications that's called the Course in Miracle. The Course in Miracles that was put together by Marianne, I forget her last name. But it's a course. It's called Course in Miracles. It's pretty I think popular
So
And
it's in the TV or whatever. This channel, I think, is the spirit channeling
mm,
some
so,
miracles. And
so the
course be the way. Oh my God! I don't follow certain things.
no, 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 it's okay. No, there
Okay.
is a series of channeled work, that this particular, person, she's American, you know, she channeled these whatever higher mind entities or whatever you want to call it, high spirits, and created this. It's called Course in Miracles. So I guess Paul is referring to that in this course, good and bad are referred to as love and fear. So with love and fear, would that be able to, would this reframe, and be helpful for our self-reflection? I think in terms of
Yeah, yeah.
the harvesting,
Oh
the good
yeah,
and the
I
bad.
think is what I answered to Alba. Actually, we need to have this duality psychologically. We need this duality in order to grow one and decrease the other. Hopefully this duality, we don't want the bad to amplify, the good to decrease. It may happen. Oh, I'm tired of being good because I'm being kicked so many times. But the in the more advanced situation, always the good will rise and the bad will. And the fear is also, I don't know if it's totally the opposite of a love, but we don't express love out of fear. That's for sure. When I have fear of losing something, or being hurt, or being, I don't express love. I go inside a shell and don't let even come close to me, to even to express love to me. And I myself cannot express love because we are afraid to be hurt. So it's all fear that is really a bad trait. Fear, it can be the opposite of love, if love is the ultimate conquer that we should achieve. Yeah, fear is something physiologically completely damaging. We all know about the neurochemicals that damage our organic body, and also our state of mind, emotions, and our behavior. We are so unhappy with the fear because not only the fear, you have to watch out and look aside, look behind, because fear seems to come over you from sudden place, and also you don't have the protection, the smoothness, the soothing effect of love that comes from our fellow people, fellow beings, parents, not only family members. So I think it is things to reflect what I always say, fear and guilt doesn't help if it's too chronic. It helps in a short time for survival. That's why we have the instinct of fear to survive. I have to be watchful. And so the guilt, in order for me to get awareness, the bad that I did, the pain that I inflicted, and now decide to repent and repair. But if the guilt stays there lingering around there without you moving one step, is negative. You're only damaging. So the fear, if the fear stuck you there, froze, what is the good for the fear? You have to fear and square all the things that is happening, run away or attack. You have to have some strategy. It cannot be the whole time chronic fear or chronic guilt. You know, the chronic is always good if it's a virtue. Yes, to stay there more and more. Yeah, that's true. Is to reflect really. Yeah.
Perfect. Yasko, we have another one, the question coming in from Daniel saying, we learn with the Spirit's book that many vices are inherent to the human species and cannot be uprooted overnight. The only way to get rid of them is to become enlightened about spiritual things. So, can you share some insights on how to achieve this enlightenment?
Well, people that are more spiritualized and optimistic, they say that these vices are not inherent. You know, we devices are a way of first is our ignorance. Out of ignorance, there's some factors for our vices to come out. Survival mode that we misread while we are evolving was good for one time, but was not good. Was good when you have in a small group of people, but it's not good in a civilization that has no millions of people and has different things, and that has other commodities that now if you use the same strategy it becomes a egotistic thing, so I think it needs a rationale there to say why I'm still doing this bad things, when that why I'm accumulating things when I could share. If the availability of this grain now is not that long time where you didn't have a way to store, the grain. So even that, Jesus gave an example. Look, the guy said, "Oh no, I'm gonna make a new barn in order to collect my extra grains." Well, but then he died before he used. So, it's something that I think is because we did not change the basic vice or whatever thing is, which is the pride and selfishness. Because if we rationally think about why I am need to collect, to construct a new barn, a new storage room to keep that, why I have to buy in big bunch, say in this Costco or whatever, if I can just use little things for a while and then it's gonna expire it. Why is that? Why I'm always like, they here we getting less and less people in the lab. So before the big cake that we used to buy would almost be gone in that day because we had 20 people. But then if you have only 10, half of the cake is going to be left there. Why thinking that tomorrow I'm going to save that other half cake for tomorrow for the people to enjoy? Why? Why you have to eat twice that sweet things and not share that this half of the cake with so many people that comes in the evening, especially the cleaning uh, group crew, they come. Why you have to eat the second time, the third time, and then if it's there you consider giving, but then it's not the same. Why not give before you cut the cake, when the cake is still fresh? Separate that half and not being a leftover, give to someone as a leftover. So why give only clothes that you already use and you don't want? Why can't you give away when this is still in a good shape? It's some little things. So I think it's not inherent. So Daniel's right that is there. If you put back the affirmation there, yes, I think it's not inherited in a way that is printed there. No, we didn't make any analysis to say, now that we are more rational, we don't need to we are not like abandoning the big field, to see if we still need that salvation mode, and becomes vice. and cannot, for sure, cannot be uprooted overnight. But it's not even over now. We've been doing this for incarnations and incarnations. For centuries, we are in the same mode. Once, sometimes we change the position. One time is the king, the queen, then the servant. But of course, it's still the thing, the bad thing trait is there. So the only way is enlightening. Of course, if the spirit is good, because as we learn, we are one spirit in different, how to say, persona. We're gonna be more humble, more humble. Well, I may have next incarnation to see how it is to have little resources, being born in Africa, you know, and the bee today is still use the incarnation, this present incarnation, to to change a little bit, because then we gain. We are already prepared for the next incarnation, and perhaps we don't need to come in such a horrible, deprived situation. I'm a little bit happy because now I understand already. So we can do. I was even thinking, suddenly you lose your asset, you lose your good way of living because you had a good job. Many lost jobs. They have to humbly go down to live in with a small amount of money, like in Brazil, salário mínimo, that we say, the minimum wage. But then I start, look, it happens to me. Probably I won't say so clearly, but why wait for the next incarnation to be born poor, living the minimum wage? Why not learn this incarnation? Now you're speeding up. You're speeding up your evolution. You don't need to wait to incarnate again to be now poor. No, you lost the job. Well, let's see what can I do and get the good of that from isn't it interesting?
It is.
Don't know
I
if
love.
God, oh my God, if he's thinking like this, is going to be laughing at us. Oh, poor child. Oh.
No, I think that that is a beautiful way to reframe the challenges that we face in life. And instead of saying like, "Oh gosh, what a horrible experience I'm having. I lost my job at this, at that." But you could say, "Well, I guess I'm living multiple incarnations in just one incarnation. I'm expediting my process."
Exactly.
Yeah, so I think that that's a great way to Paula's point about reframing things. I think that's a great way to reframe Yasko. I love that idea.
Exactly.
I mean,
Okay.
that's the idea, right? For us to be able to look at things from a different perspective.
Well, Kirsten, I heard this way ago when the families they start to when the divorce it start to be more common, multiple family, putting together kids from 2 or 3 marriage from the other, and you become a big family. They say is expediting the incarnation, instead, because before was one family at a time, because the marriage would step to the end. It's only your children, your grandchildren, that, limited family frame. Now comes someone from the other family that you have to love their kids the same way I want them to love my kids. So I don't need to wait for the next incarnation to pay my duties or to pay what I own to that other family, because they are not by chance that they come to live together, right? We spiritists believe in that. We are all in some network, but then doesn't need to wait a new incarnation. They're all in this, 2 or 3 family, 2 or 3 generations spreading horizontally, 2 or 3 in-laws. It's not more or one in-law, is one pair of in-law. No, 2 or 3 pair of in-laws. It's fascinating. Well, I can tell this because I don't have even one. It's easy to say. It's easy to say, but I feel, oh wow, this is amazing a scenario, the stage is there, beautiful for someone that is seen from above the arena. We all moving around. I feel this is fantastic.
It is,
Yeah.
it is. It's the Brady Bunch, right? It's the mixture of different, uh, of family, and it's the changing ideas of what is the nuclear family, right? It's again,
Exactly.
it's another reframing of what we consider.
Family constellation. Look
Mhm.
at that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's perfect.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have one last question, and I think you kind of answered it already from this person. I don't know who she is. Um, what can we do to make our quote bad parts speak less and make our quote good parts be stronger within us?
Is to understand ourselves. We have to know ourselves because only we can judge ourselves. Even that, go slowly, smoothly. Don't be so harsh on ourselves. But bad things, we have, if we understand why we're doing that, what is triggering, we have to learn what triggers our bad habit. And if you go to the cause slowly, one day you cannot apply and get rid of the cause 100%, but you can get rid of 20% or 5% each time. It becomes easier and easier. But we have to be honest and understand why we're doing that. Why we falling always in the same hole. Why we are not more creative. No. So yes, I think we have to know ourselves in order to effectively get rid of, not put any how to say, a band-aid or something to cover up. It's like they say, if you don't treat the wound from the death of the not cleaning the tissue, you as a nurse will know. Well, it doesn't need just to cover with some bandage or something. It will get worse. The fly will come.
Hmm.
No, so I think it's honesty. I think it's honest and is the power of will, the willpower. Say, look, I understand and I can so, but only we can answer this. Am I able really? Or it's too early to uproot. So this uproot is so faking, so in denial that they will even do bad to my good part psychologically. Yeah. Create more mental imbalance, emotional imbalance. It causes really.
Yeah,
Yeah. Hmm.
that's perfectly said, Yasko. Wow. I mean, what a great talk this evening for all of us to reflect. I mean, not just because it's Thanksgiving, but every day is a blessing. Every day of life that we have is a blessing and should be used as an opportunity, for these types of reflections. It's really important for
True.
us.
True. True. Very
Um,
true.
so we are coming to an end here. Um, of the presentation, or of just our evening this evening, of all our comments and the questions. Thank you everyone for participating, and thank you, Yasko, so
Hmm.
much. Would you like to do the final prayer for
Yeah, sure.
us?
Hmm. Yeah.
And then we will say our good night.
Okay. So let's raise the best of our thoughts, our emotions to the Almighty, to our dear Master Jesus, Mary, the Mother, and all the mentors that have been with us for so long. Raise our thought to be really, really grateful for the opportunity of many incarnations given to us. and especially this one that we came more prepared to absorb the real teachings of Jesus, the knowledge that we have a Father, our Father that is always there, never want us to be in a bad situation, no, always patiently waiting for us to slowly awake and raise our awareness for the goodness. So for that, we are so thankful. So thankful to be among friends, studying the Spiritism, the primitive, the initial teachings of God, of Jesus, about love, about compassion, about tolerance, to be pure in our sentiments. Also, let's raise our prayers in these moments that Thanksgiving is approaching. Let's think about all the families in this planet. Some, many of them, in such a suffering because of lack of very basic items, basic resource to survive, clean water, basic food, sanitary system, and of course, for that, they become very vulnerable to the infection, diseases, pandemia. Let's raise our thought for us, as each one of us, to be aware of these poor brothers and sisters, and also for us to work with the government, with the non-profit organizations, to raise not only awareness, but the real resource to diminish, to reduce their suffering. Let's raise our thoughts, our wishes for the educational system to give the opportunity, equal opportunity for education to all the girls and boys in every part of the world. So from that, they will be able to not only to defend themselves, but also to work in a more humane situation and condition. Let's pray for all of them. For the people that are still in the hospital fighting because of this pandemic, for them to be consoled, to have their forces to keep going. To the nurses, medical doctors, to have their effort being recognized so they can keep going, helping as the only helpers in certain moments of these patients. Thank you so much, God, Jesus, for all the opportunities and for this wonderful SSB family that stayed together with me during 20 years, and I hope to be continuing to be together in a different mode, but together. Thank you, and so be it. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everyone.
Have a good night, everyone.
Bye.
Bye bye.